Stop for a second. Don't scroll. Let me ask you something that might change the way you see life forever. Do you honestly believe that being good keeps you safe? That kindness shields you from harm? That generosity wins loyalty? That honesty guarantees respect? If you've ever said yes to those questions, then you've been living inside one of the most dangerous illusions society has ever sold us. Here's the hard truth. Goodness doesn't protect you. In fact, more often than not, it's what destroys you. Think about it. Fire is beautiful, but fire burns. Goodness is the same. It can burn down everything you've worked for. Your relationships, your career, your dreams. Niccolò Machiavelli understood this centuries ago. He saw noble rulers ruined. He saw kind kings brought to their knees. He saw generous leaders betrayed by the very people they tried to help. And he wrote it all down. That's what I want to share with you today. The shocking cost of being too good. The price no one warns you about. Because while you believe your goodness makes you strong, the world often interprets it as weakness. Let's be clear. I'm not saying you should become cruel. I'm not telling you to betray people or to harm them. What I am saying is this. You can't afford to be blindly good. You must be good with strategy. You must be good with intention. Because here's the reality. This world is full of wolves. And if you insist on acting like a sheep, you will be eaten alive. I want you to declare something right now. I choose strategic goodness. Say it. Write it. Own it. From today forward, you're not going to be a victim of your own kindness. You're going to use it as a weapon. So let's break this open. The first truth. Goodness makes you exposed. Think about the kindest person you know. Are they respected? Or are they simply the person everyone calls when they need a favor? Be honest. That's the trap. Constant goodness doesn't make you untouchable. It makes you vulnerable. People start predicting your behavior. They know you'll say yes. They know you won't fight back. They know you'll let them take more than they deserve. Because you're too nice to stop them. That's how you become the office doormat. That's how you become the friend who always pays the bill. That's how you become the family member who keeps giving, even when it costs you your peace. I once knew a man like this. The best team manager I'd ever met. Always helpful, always putting his people first, always carrying the weight for others. And do you know what happened when it came time for promotion? They picked someone else. Why? Because being nice didn't make him look like a leader. It made him look like a servant. People don't honor unchecked goodness. They exploit it. When help is always available, people stop valuing it. When you never draw boundaries, people walk right over you. When you never show your teeth, people assume you don't have any. That's the brutal reality. Your goodness, when unguarded, is read by the world as weakness. The lesson Machiavelli left behind. Machiavelli once wrote, "The lion cannot protect himself from traps, and the fox cannot defend himself from wolves. One must therefore be a fox to recognize traps, and a lion to frighten wolves." And yet, so many of us keep trying to survive as sheep. That's why we keep getting hurt. That's why we keep wondering why the world feels unfair. Because we believed the lie that being good would protect us. It won't. What will protect you is strategic goodness. Kindness with boundaries, generosity with wisdom, honesty with courage. You don't stop being good. You stop being predictable. You stop being naive. You stop handing your power away wrapped in kindness. Say it with me. I protect my energy. From today on, your goodness won't be the reason you're destroyed. It will be the reason you rise. The second truth, the generosity trap. Let me tell you something that might flip the way you think about kindness. The more you give, the less people appreciate it. Sounds crazy, right? But stay with me. Generosity is intoxicating at first. People clap for you. They say sweet things. They tell everyone how wonderful you are. It feels good. It feels like proof that you're doing the right thing. But then, something dark sneaks in. Your kindness slowly mutates into expectation. And once that happens, it's not gratitude you receive anymore. It's entitlement. Here's how it works. You help someone once, and they're touched. You help them twice, and they're grateful. But after the 10th time, they stop being thankful. They start counting on it. What was once an extraordinary act of love now becomes just what you do. And God help you if you ever stop. They won't remember the 9 times you said yes. They'll remember the 1 time you said no. Suddenly, you're the selfish one. You're the disappointment. You're the villain in the story. Think about parents who constantly give their kids everything they ask for. At first, the new toys or the new phone feel magical. But soon, those gifts become routine. That's just what mom and dad provide. And the first time the parents say no, the kids explode. Angry, resentful, accusing them of being unfair. It doesn't just happen in families. It happens in friendships. You're always the one picking up the check. You're the one driving everyone around. You're the one helping people move. In the beginning, they're grateful. But then, they stop saying thank you. They stop noticing. They just assume you'll handle it. And if one day you ask them for help, suddenly they're too busy. That's the trap. You give and give until giving defines you. And the second you stop, or even pause, you become the enemy. Your generosity doesn't secure loyalty. It creates dependency. And when you cut off the supply, the very people you lifted up will turn against you. This isn't about being cynical. It's about human psychology. We all adapt. Scientists call it hedonic adaptation. The extraordinary becomes ordinary. The special becomes expected. The more you give, the faster your kindness fades into the background. It becomes invisible. But the moment you say no, that shines like a flare in the night. That's the memory that sticks. That's the wound they keep picking at. Look around and you'll see this everywhere. At work. If you always stay late, that sacrifice quickly becomes the standard. Nobody thanks you anymore. But the one evening you leave on time, suddenly you're labeled uncommitted in relationships. If you always compromise turns into obligation. But the one time you draw a line, you're accused of being difficult. Machiavelli had it figured out centuries ago. He wrote, "Benefits ought to be conferred gradually, and in that way, they will taste better." He knew the truth most of us never learn. Scarcity creates value. Abundance destroys it. So if this resonates with you, hold on to this line. I give strategically. The third truth, the mask of virtue. Now let's move to something even harder to swallow. Society doesn't reward reality. It rewards appearances. People don't care if you're truly good. They care if you look good. They don't measure your heart. They measure your image. That's why the most powerful people wear a mask. They project virtue, but behind the curtain, they hold tight to control. Think about the most successful leaders you know. Do you really believe they climbed their way up by being endlessly kind to everyone? No. They learned when to smile and when to strike. They learned to show mercy when it served them, and to show steel when it was necessary. This isn't about faking it. It's about being wise. Imagine a surgeon. To save your life, they have to cut you open. Does that make them cruel? Of course not. They do what's needed, even if it hurts in the moment. Real leaders get this. Sometimes protecting someone means saying no. Sometimes saving a group means making unpopular decisions. Wearing the mask of virtue doesn't mean lying. It means choosing your timing, knowing when to reveal your softness and when to reveal your strength. Most people get it backwards. They show weakness to enemies and strength to friends. But the wise do the opposite. They guard their vulnerability from those who would exploit it, and they show their strongest self to the world. Machiavelli wrote, "Everyone sees what you appear to be. Few experience what you really are." He was right. Perception shapes reality. If people see you as weak, you become weak in their eyes. If they see you as strong, they treat you as strong. So remember this: I control my image. The fourth truth: the economics of power. Every action you take has a price tag attached. Every favor, every time you swallow your no and force yourself to say yes, every hour spent fixing someone else's mess instead of building your own life. Most good people never stop to calculate this. They pour themselves out until there's nothing left, and then wonder why they feel drained, bitter, and unappreciated. Here's the hard truth: your time, your energy, your resources, they are not infinite. When you hand them out freely, piece by piece, you're left with scraps for yourself. That's not selfish to admit. That's arithmetic. Endless generosity is not strength. It's self-destruction. And when you collapse under the weight of it, you can't lift anyone else. Think about the safety briefing on an airplane. They always tell you to put your oxygen mask on first. Only then do you help others. Why? Because if you pass out trying to save someone else, now both of you need rescuing. That's how life works. If you drain yourself dry, you don't become a savior. You become another liability. Wise people understand this. They guard their time and energy the way a soldier guards ammunition. Not because they're cruel, but because they want to last. Sustainability is the real form of kindness. I didn't understand that for years. I thought being good meant saying yes to everyone, every request, every favor, every quick question that turned into hours of unpaid labor. You know what happened? I got angry. I grew resentful. My own dreams gathered dust. My own projects fell behind. And ironically, I was less available to the people who truly depended on me. That's when the revelation hit me. Every time I said yes to someone else, I was saying no to myself. And when you keep abandoning yourself, eventually you abandon everyone. History proves this point. The most generous people weren't the ones who spread themselves thin. They were the ones who said no most of the time, so they could say yes in a way that changed the world. Machiavelli was blunt about it. He who wishes to be obeyed must know how to command. You cannot command others if you don't command yourself. You cannot lead anyone if you won't lead your own energy, your own time, your own resources. Affirm it with me. I protect my resources. The fifth truth: strategic use of virtue now. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying you should harden your heart. I'm not telling you to throw away honesty, mercy, or generosity. What I am saying is this: virtues, like weapons, only have power when used at the right moment. A sword locked in a chest can't defend anyone, but in the hands of a skilled warrior, it can save a kingdom. Your goodness must work the same way. When you give, give with precision. When you show mercy, do it with purpose. When you're generous, let it be tied to the outcome you actually want. Think about it this way. Instead of helping everyone a little bit, help the right people a lot. Instead of being nice to everyone, be profoundly kind to the ones who matter most. Instead of scattering your yeses everywhere, pour your full heart into the few things that align with your vision. That approach changes everything. First, your kindness becomes valuable because it's not cheap or constant. It's rare. Second, your impact multiplies because your focus sharpens. Third, people respect you more because they see your choices mean something. History remembers leaders who mastered this. Martin Luther King Jr. wasn't gentle with injustice. He confronted it with fire. Mother Teresa didn't try to solve every problem on earth. She poured herself fiercely into serving the poorest of the poor. They weren't soft and agreeable to everyone. They were deliberate. They used virtue with precision. So how do you live this way? Before you agree to anything, stop and ask 3 questions. Does this align with my values and goals? Can I do this without depleting myself? Will this person respect and appreciate it? If the answer to any of these is no, your response should also be no. Not cruel, not apologetic, just firm and kind. And when you do say yes, make it count. Say it with your whole being. Give your best effort. Create value that lasts. Because when your yes is rare, it matters. When your help is intentional, it builds loyalty instead of entitlement. When your kindness is strategic, it changes lives instead of draining yours. Machiavelli warned us, the promise given was a necessity of the past. The word broken is a necessity of the present. Sometimes honoring one commitment means breaking another. Sometimes protecting your dream means disappointing someone else. Sometimes real love means setting limits. That's not selfish. That's effective. And that's the kind of goodness the world desperately needs. Affirm it with me. I choose effective kindness. The 6th truth, the illusion of gratitude. There's a truth about human nature that will change the way you see people forever. Gratitude doesn't last. I know that stings. We all want to believe that when we sacrifice, when we show up, when we pour out our time and energy, people will remember and cherish it. But in reality, gratitude has an expiration date. The first time you step in for someone, they're overwhelmed with appreciation. The second time, they're still thankful. But not as much. By the third time, the magic is gone. And by the fourth, they don't even ask anymore. They just assume you'll be there. And if you can't, suddenly, you're the one who's unreliable. You're the one who let them down. This isn't about people being wicked. It's about psychology. Humans adapt quickly. Extraordinary kindness stops being extraordinary when it becomes routine. What once felt like a generous gift becomes the bare minimum. People stop seeing the cost to you. They only remember the benefit to themselves. You see this everywhere. In families, the sibling who always says yes becomes the one everyone assumes will keep saying yes. In friendships, the dependable helper becomes the automatic choice. At work, the reliable employee gets buried under just one more task. And when these people finally put up a boundary, they're accused of being selfish, difficult, or ungrateful. The cruel irony is that the more consistent you are in your kindness, the less it is valued. The more available you make yourself, the less your presence feels special. The more you give without asking anything back, the more people assume your giving costs you nothing. That's the illusion of gratitude. We think doing more will inspire deeper appreciation. But in reality, the opposite happens. The more you give, the more people expect. And the ones who end up valuing you most are often the ones you helped the least. The people who take you for granted, usually the ones you gave the most. It's not evil. It's just human nature. People normalize good treatment until it blends into the background. That's why gratitude fades and entitlement grows. The solution isn't to stop being kind. It's to be smart with your kindness. Boundaries are not cruelty. They are protection. When you step back sometimes, when you don't show up automatically, people are reminded of what life feels like without your presence. And in that space, appreciation is reborn. Machiavelli understood this centuries ago. He said, "Men judge generally more by the eye than by the hand. For everyone can see and few can feel." Translation: people focus on what you're doing right now, not what you've already done. Past sacrifices vanish from memory. What matters in their eyes is your current action. So here's the affirmation you need to anchor. I create lasting impact. The seventh truth: results over intentions. Let's move to another uncomfortable truth. The world doesn't judge your intentions. It judges your results. You can have the purest heart. You can mean well with every fiber of your being. But if your choices don't create real outcomes, none of it matters. History doesn't honor people who simply meant well. It honors people who delivered. Think about it. Would you rather be remembered as someone who was always nice, who never ruffled feathers, but never accomplished much? Or as someone who sometimes seemed tough, but actually left the world stronger, better, changed? Most people pick the first option. Niceness feels safe. But here's the harsh truth. Being remembered only for being nice means being forgotten. Nice fades into the background. Results echo through time. Real goodness isn't about how it looks. It's about what it creates. Sometimes that means doing things that don't look good in the moment. A parent disciplining their child may seem harsh, but it's love in its truest form. A teacher who gives hard grades isn't being cruel. They're preparing their students for life. A boss who sets high standards isn't unreasonable. They're building a team that can thrive. Surface-level kindness creates comfort. True goodness creates growth. And that's where many good-hearted people fail. They chase approval instead of progress. They choose being liked over being effective. They pick temporary harmony instead of lasting change. But if your goodness doesn't lead to results, it's not real goodness. It's just niceness. Let me make the difference clear. Nice people avoid conflict. Good people resolve it. Nice people say what others want to hear. Good people say what needs to be heard. Nice people maintain the status quo. Good people push for change. The world has an abundance of nice. What it's starving for are people who can deliver good that actually lasts. Machiavelli captured this truth in a single line. The end justifies the means. That doesn't mean doing evil to achieve good. It means your intentions don't matter if your actions don't produce positive results. People don't live inside your heart. They live with the consequences of what you do. Real goodness requires courage. It demands that you stop asking, "Will they like me?" and start asking, "Will this make things better?" It requires the strength to accept that sometimes you'll look bad in the short run, but you'll build something that lasts in the long run. Because at the end of the day, people won't remember your motives. They won't recall how much you wanted to help. They'll remember what you built. They'll remember the change you created. They'll remember the legacy you left behind. anchor this truth. I focus on outcomes. The eighth truth, legacy and survival. Let's cut straight to it. What really matters isn't how nice you were in passing moments. What matters is what survives after you're gone. What you built, what you changed, the imprint you left on this world. History doesn't hand out awards to people who were just pleasant. It doesn't remember the agreeable. It remembers the ones who endured, who fought through storms, who carved their vision into reality, even when it came at a cost. Think about it. Can you name 5 nice people from history? Probably not. But you can name 5 people who changed the way the world works. They weren't saints of politeness. They were relentless builders, fighters, creators. Take Steve Jobs. He wasn't known for being warm or easy. He was demanding. He was obsessive. He pushed people past their limits. But he also changed the way billions of us live, work, and connect. His legacy isn't niceness. It's impact. And that's the point. Being remembered for making a difference is far better than being forgotten for being agreeable. Here's the part most people miss. You can't leave a legacy if you don't survive long enough to create one. And survival. In life, in business, in relationships, takes more than just being good. It takes resilience. It takes strategy. It takes strength. The kindest soul in the room can't protect anyone if they're crushed by people who prey on kindness. The most generous heart can't give anything if it gives everything away too soon. The most honest voice can't speak truth if it's silenced by those who prefer lies. You have to survive first. Then you can thrive. Then you can leave something behind that matters. Survival means protecting yourself so you can protect others. Building yourself up so you can lift others higher. Growing strong so you can step in when the weak need shelter. That isn't selfishness. It's strategy. That isn't cruelty. It's careful preparation. Look closely at the people who actually change the world for the better. They're not pushovers. They're not yes men. They're not afraid of being called harsh. They say no. They set boundaries. They make the hard calls. They understand that goodness without power is fragile. And fragile goodness breaks under pressure. Machiavelli said, "It is better to be feared than loved, if you cannot be both." What he meant is simple. Respect outlasts affection. Impact outlasts popularity. Results outlast feelings. And here's the good news. You don't have to choose between being strong and being good. You can be both. In fact, you should be both. But if forced to choose strength. Because strength gives you the power to wield goodness when it counts. Weakness, no matter how noble, leaves you vulnerable. So here's the final, most important lesson. Goodness without strategy is dangerous. It leaves you open to exploitation. It drains you dry. It piles expectations on your shoulders until you break under the weight. But goodness with strategy, that's unstoppable. It becomes a shield, a sword, and a foundation. It transforms kindness from a liability into a weapon of influence. It allows you to create real change, not just temporary comfort. It allows you to live a life and leave a legacy that actually matters. By now, you've seen the patterns. You've seen how blind generosity traps you, how gratitude fades, how good intentions mean nothing without good results. But you've also seen the way forward, turning goodness into strength, making kindness intentional, transforming care into power. And that brings us to the question only you can answer. Will you keep being good in the old way? Blindly, endlessly, until it breaks you? Or will you step into the new way? Strategic, effective, powerful. Will you let goodness weaken you? Or will you master it and turn it into your greatest weapon? The choice is yours. But now you hold the knowledge. You can choose wisely. So let me leave you with this. Your goodness is not your weakness. When used with intention, it is your strength. In a world full of wolves, don't be the sheep. Be the shepherd. Protect. Guide. Lead. Not through fragility, but through wisdom, courage, and strategy. Drop this final affirmation in your heart and in your words. I master strategic goodness, because that is how you build a legacy that endures.